Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. With this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing a GeForce RTX 3050 8GB model in Stalker 2 Heart of Chornobyl. This one is the Gigabyte Eagle version of the card. We are running it with the latest Nvidia drivers and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Up's GPU series, as well is also enabled. And again, this is the 8GB version, it's not the 6GB 3050, which is slower, and also not the mobile chip, which only has 4GB of VRAM. And over on the left, I'm pairing it with a Ryzen 9 7950X 3D CPU with half of its cores disabled, making it the same as a 7800X 3D. And yes, it's very overkill for this GPU, but you should achieve the same FPS if you pair it with like Ryzen 5 5600X, I guess. That should not bottleneck 3050 in most scenarios at least, and 32GB of RAM. Now, the RAM amount is actually what you need for this game, because I see it utilize up to like 23GB at times. So yeah, if you only have 16, upgrade your RAM. Anyway, that's enough intro, let's get into the game now, shall we? Let's go over the settings now. I'm playing at 1080p resolution, utilizing the medium settings preset to start this off. DLAA is enabled with 100% resolution scale, of course. That's what DLAA does. It still utilizes the native resolution, but it applies anti-aliasing over it, and everything else is still on the medium preset. And well, here we go. Let's start by drinking some vodka, oh yes. And let's start counting our FPS right now. This is one of the most intensive, if not the most intensive area in the entire game. Actually, I've been told by some people that when you get to the bigger city of the game, it's still not as intensive as this, so I guess this is just a broken area, completely broken area, you know? Anyway, it's getting 30 plus frames per second, it's very similar to what we saw with the RX 6600, by the way. I tested it yesterday and it was getting around 30, 35, sometimes a little bit above that. I mean, it's exactly what we're seeing here, basically, with that AMD GPU. But the thing is, the RX 6600 is usually a bit faster than the RTX 3050 in other titles, and in this one, it seems like they're very comparable in terms of the performance. Out here, it gets 40s, as you can see, so no major stuttering anymore, by the way, as we saw over there, you know. It's not going to drop into the low 30s anymore, either, so it can be a playable experience. It's not great, actually. Obviously, like you can see it, 30 to 40 frames per second on average is definitely not great. And if you lower it down to low settings, you can achieve like 3 more FPS, so yeah, it will also make the game look a little bit worse. I think I would stick to medium settings here with the 3050, as well as maybe with the RX 6600, since they were both very similar in performance once again. Now, you know what? Should I throw a grenade at that thing over there? That's a very big anomaly, you know? I'm scared now. Hopefully it doesn't start pulling me in towards it. Let's go. Oh boy, it's pulling me in! It's pulling me in! It doesn't do anything with the grenade! Okay. Oh, maybe it does! I don't know. Let's go. Another one! Come on, grenade, do something! Can I throw... Maybe if I throw a couple of grenades, it will do a better job. Maybe more than a couple of grenades. Let's try it out. Come on, stop it! You know what? Let's go. Let's go away. It doesn't do anything, god damn it! What the heck? Why did you pull me in so close? Holy crap! Alright, you know what, guys? I think it was all Bob's fault, so I'm just gonna kill the bastard here. It dropped to 28 when we did it. What the heck? Okay. Oh boy. These are all Bob's friends, obviously. They're all here to wreck El Crispo, but I am not gonna let that happen. Let me go away. Actually, let me bring my gun over here, the good one. Let's go. You're all gonna die, you bastards. You're all gonna die. Grenades! Oh, come on, grenades! There we go! Oh my gosh, it's an army of them, guys! Holy crap! Okay. Bob's army is here. We need to get them bastards. Let's go. Oh, they also got grenades. Of course they do. Oh my. I guess it doesn't get much worse than this in terms of FPS. Wow, okay. So it does drop into the 20s if you decide to be a maniac like me. That's not good at all, you know, so because of that, I am not going to attempt like high settings or epic settings in this video. I saw some comments on the RX 6600 video asking me, why didn't you try epic settings? You can play on epic setting. Yes, but with like 30 FPS with frame generation enabled. Come on, like that's not playable, you know? Yeah, the baseline FPS that you should aim for if you want frame generation is 60 frames. Maybe if you get like 45, 50 FPS baseline with frame generation, it's still going to feel okay, but below that, no. Like, if I were to go over here to the graphics settings and instead of doing like quality DLSS, do FSR frame generation, which is the implementation that the RTX 3050 supports, of course. But thankfully, this game has FSR 3.1, so you can enable FG over DLSS or DLAA. And I'm also enabling reflex here just to make it a little bit less input laggy, you know. And now you look at the FPS and you think, yeah, it's getting 60 FPS. That's pretty damn good, you know. You could go up to epic settings, maybe with like medium textures, so it doesn't run out of VRAM, you know. But you could go to epic settings and play with 30 FPS maybe. But the thing that they don't tell you is the input lag, guys. You can't really tell much either from my testing like that, but I can tell you guys it's super, super noticeable and it feels like crap. And that's where, by the way, I'm just going to disable frame generation here, DLSS Quality comes in. DLSS Quality doesn't look too terrible. I'm going to disable reflex right here because that doesn't allow our GPU to use 99% all of the time. And yeah, this is DLSS Quality at 1080p resolution. It's upscaling from 720p resolution. It looks way better than stuff like FSR or TSR or XESS here in this title. Although it still has a bit of ghosting around like the trees and the power lines, a little bit of more aliasing than at native 1080p resolution. You can see more noise at the distance on the trees as well. But is it the end of the world, guys? I don't think so. And I mean, yes, it doesn't look like native resolution anymore, unfortunately, at 1080p with DLSS, but it doesn't look terrible at the same time. I would be fine with this. I actually played a lot of the game for about an hour with the RTX 3060 with high settings, 1080p and DLSS quality. And if you're interested, that got around 60 frames per second on average with those settings. This is getting 50 on average, I guess, with quality DLSS at medium settings instead of high settings, of course. So there's a difference there, obviously. But the thing is, after a while, you get used to the DLSS implementation here, you know, and especially on a smaller monitor, it looks okay. It doesn't look great, but it's definitely still seeable and it can still be enjoyable, and the graphics are still good looking overall, even with the DLSS quality enabled, right? Especially if you're watching this on a phone, it's probably looking pretty decent at the moment. And I think it will look pretty decent on like a 22-inch for 1080p monitor or a 24-inch 1080p monitor as well. So it's definitely a playable experience like this, and it can be enjoyable still if you don't mind not getting 60 FPS, not even on average, you know, but at least it's not dropping into like the lower 30s anymore, or even high 20s like at native resolution. And 50 FPS average might actually give us a good baseline for frame generation. Let's find out. I'm going to enable that over here, and I'm also going to enable reflex. Also, what reflex does is lower input lag, okay, but it's still really, really bad in that regard. Thing is, you can actually go into the config files, and I've been told by a lot of people that if you disable the mouse acceleration in the config files, the frame generation with 80-something FPS actually ends up feeling a lot better than it does right now. So it's up to you whether or not you want to mess around with the config files and stuff. But see that? It still drops into the 60s sometimes. So whenever it happens, even if you do the mouse acceleration fix... What is Bob doing? Are you ready to poop or something? What the heck, Bob? You should remove your trousers first. Goodbye, Bob! All right. Let's go this way. I'm not ready for another big fight like that one previously. It's very late in the day, right? No, it's only almost 3 p.m., dude. It's almost 3 p.m. and it looks like... What the heck, right? I really feel like this game should have been brighter for some reason. Also, guys, after being playing for, what, 2 minutes, 3 minutes with the frame generation enabled here and with 80 FPS plus, which is what you get outside of the settlement area with frame generation. I got used to it. It doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would. So you can definitely get used to it, and if you play with a controller, it will be even better in terms of input lag, because it's less noticeable. I've tried in the past as well, not in this game, but in other games. And yeah, it's going to feel a bit better with the controller as well. But even with mouse and keyboard, it's doable. It's fine overall, I guess. That said, let's stop it right there. 89 FPS average. Yeah, it's okay. It's not terrible. It's a 3050 after all. So I'm gonna set it to DLAA right here. Disable frame generation. Okay. This is native resolution now with medium settings. Obviously, the 3050 is not a 1440p gaming GPU, but, well, I'm just curious here, okay? And a lot of people complain that I don't test 1440p with these lower-end GPUs, so here we are. This is why I don't test them, because it's getting 20 FPS. Alright? Even here, outside of the most intensive area, you know? And, well, here we are, getting 25 or 24 FPS. Oh, boy! Okay, I guess it ran out of VRAM. The memory leak is attacking us now, guys. This sometimes happens. All you need to do is restart the game and it will go back to normal. But after you play for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes with a high resolution like this on a GPU with 8 gigabytes, this will happen usually. And also at 1080p with high textures. So that's just another thing that's broken in this game. And sometimes it will get you single-digit FPS here in this area, but out there while exploring and stuff like that, it won't get down to single digits. Okay, it will still stay in the 20s that we're getting here, maybe 30s at times. But yeah, guys, that's it for native resolution at 1440p. It's still medium settings, of course, but remember, if I used low settings, it would be pretty much the same thing, like 2 or 3 FPS higher. So it would still drop into the 20s. But let me check out quality DLSS, because this might make a big difference. And indeed, it does. Look at that. 40 FPS looking in this direction. And if we go to the city area again, it will stutter. So it will drop down into the 20s when it stutters. Yes, there we go. But once you are here, it goes up into the 30s again, 35, 36. So kind of the same thing as 1080p native resolution, right? With medium settings. Yeah, I guess. Maybe a couple of FPS slower than that, but it's about it. Obviously, there's still the option of utilizing the frame generation right here, you know, but that's going to be terrible, of course, because the baseline FPS were in the 30s. You see 60 FPS there, but it feels worse to turn the camera around than 30 FPS. Like, actually, it feels worse to turn the camera around because of the input lag and aim at enemies and so on than 25 frames per second. I'd rather have 25 frames per second. In terms of perceived smoothness to the eye, there's no denying this looks a lot better, but in terms of the feeling of the game itself, I'd rather have 25, guys. At least when moving around, the input lag is instant, pretty much. And this isn't. This is terrible. Still, let's go down to low settings here. I'm going to disable frame generation again. Apply that, and I will restart the game completely to load the shaders again, because when you switch presets, you need to load the shaders again. Just for a quick look, by the way. I like to see everything loading at once. Like, it starts by looking like a 2005 game, and then things start popping in, and yeah. Anyway, let's quit to the desktop and restart. All right, here we go. 1440p low settings, native resolution with DLAA at the moment, as you can see. No frame generation. And once again, guys, we're getting those 2 or 3 more FPS than medium settings. As I told you, it doesn't really differ by all that much. It might put us above 30 frames per second outside of this settlement area, but I mean, sometimes there is a possibility of dropping into the 20s, especially if you throw like a couple of grenades, for example, or you have like 5 enemies coming at you and they throw grenades at you as well. Yeah, it will end up dropping by a little bit, and if it drops slightly, what the heck, it will drop you into the 20s, basically. I mean, it's 1440p on a 3050. What were you expecting, right? I mean, yeah, it can be playable if you don't mind 20-something FPS. And I guess more and more people, or I see at least more and more people telling me that 25 FPS is playable. Like, what is... Gaming is just ruined by these engines that are so much more power hungry and hardware hungry than previously. It's insane. And also the optimization, of course. Like, people now are defending this, saying that 25 FPS is playable. What the hell, dude? Come on. We shouldn't accept 25 FPS being playable in 2024. We got hardware that's so much more powerful than the older generations of hardware that we had like 5 years ago and stuff like that. Yet, games 5 years ago ran a lot better on the hardware from that era. Why? Because of ray tracing, Lumen, Nanite, Unreal Engine 5, and optimization as well. It's just... It's gaming in 2024. That's why I really like older titles, and that's why I might actually go back and test older titles after I'm done with the Stalker 2 videos. But anyways, I'm deviating from the purpose of the video, which is testing the RTX 3050 here in this game. And, well, at 1440p, if you don't mind playing with low settings and the quality DLSS, it will get you around 40 FPS. It shouldn't really drop from 30 FPS anymore. At least over there it didn't, so it shouldn't drop anywhere else. And yeah, it's going to be playable, but I still would not recommend 1440p with a 3050, right? Anyway, I'm gonna select Performance DLSS here. This is 50% resolution scale. This is essentially 720p being upscaled to 1440p. It kind of looks very similar to quality DLSS at 1080p, I think. At least here in my monitor. Yeah, I can see some noise. Maybe it looks a little bit better. I don't know. Pretty interesting. But yeah, it's still not enough for 60 FPS, as you can see. Sometimes you can reach 60, but most of the time it's going to be 50 to 60. And of course, in the settlement area, which is going to be more intensive, it's going to drop further, probably into the 40s, low 40s, you know. Now, with these upscaling options, you can actually enable frame generation and have a decent experience, since the baseline were at 50 FPS. And now we're getting 90 to 100 frames per second. Lots of softness on the image right now. Can definitely tell that. Input lag is pretty bad right now, but that's because I forgot to enable the Oh, it's already enabled. Never mind. No, okay. So input lag is bad still because it's FSR FG and not Nvidia's frame generation from the 40 series. It feels a lot better on those in terms of the input lag than it does with FSR FG. Again, it will be playable for some people, it won't be playable for other people, and I think this is pretty rough of an experience still in terms of the input lag. If I had like 5 dogs coming at me, I would probably be screwed because of the input lag here. Oh, we can actually play some football with the guns, look at that. There we go, there we go. Great stuff, and we're getting the highest FPS right now. So if you want to make Stalker 2 a football game with a gun... Oh, that's a lot of ghosting there. It's going to run very well with 120 frames per second on the 3050 with Performance DLSS at 1440p, which is terrible. Yep. And you know what? Since we're testing ridiculous resolutions for the RTX 3050, why not try some 4K as well? I'll keep this very, very short, of course. It's getting 30 FPS, Performance DLSS, alright, so it's upscaling from 1080p resolution, low settings as well. I thought it was going to be worse, but it still drops into the 20s. It's bad, okay? And obviously, if you enable frame generation, it's going to be even worse because of the input lag. Drops down to 20s, mid-20s as well, with the stuttering. Yep, so that's bad. That's terrible, right? One last time. Goodbye, Bob! And I'll catch you guys in the next one very soon. As always, love you all. Bye-bye. And bye-bye to you guys too. I'm gonna die.